talked a little bit about how the goals of MoveVU at large and probably Commute Hub too is just promoting these other forms of transportation, trying to utilize these parking spaces for other things because they're such a valuable asset. Do you have an actual, I don't know if you guys had actual like hard data goals that you were trying to accomplish with these when it relates to commuters and students and things like that?
Yeah, we do. So FutureVU, the MoveVU plan outlines mode shift goals. So that's trying to take trips that are done by driving alone and converting them to either carpooling, van pooling, taking the bus, riding your bike, or walking, or even telecommuting as well. And so we have a goal to go from about a 75% drive alone rate down to a 55% drive alone rate. And also by doing that, we hope to boost those other forms of transportation to get things like biking and walking, up at like 5 to 10%. What's been interesting is the COVID-19 pandemic was a major shift between kind of status quo where we were doing and then kind of the other extreme where we had so many people telecommuting. And so that actually probably got us like really close to our goal. But, we're kind of now in this period where there's discussions about future of work, and, there's always going to be the importance of having teaching and research being done on campus and in person.
Yeah.
But then a lot of the support work that goes on at the university a lot of it can be done remotely, or if not completely remotely, it can be done, a few days on campus or a few days on campus. So there are several departments that are currently talking through a pilot program as part of the return to campus on the future of work. And so we've got some positions that we know are kind of customer service facing. And so those people will have to be on campus, or they may like rotate through just depending on how their team is set up. And then we know some people will choose to, stay remotely just because their work doesn't have to be tied to campus. So we're really curious as to what that, how that might impact that goal going forward, because, that is definitely it will definitely kind of make a dent in that.
Yeah, definitely.
We've also been, some other strategies that we've been doing has been like the rollout of our Easy Ride program, which is the ability to take WeGo public transit for free. And previously that had only been tied to your commute to and from campus, but we're now have that available for any trip. So you can take it if you just want to go downtown, see a concert, and take like an Uber home. So, we're offering that as something as like a paid perk for working or learning at Vanderbilt.
That's nice.
So that was recently expanded right when the pandemic hit. And so we think, as more people kind of get out and about and are doing things, that'll be something that people will take advantage of. Then also going into this fall will be at the start of this next academic calendar year. So this was kind of the deadline I was mentioning about September 1. We'll be offering an incentive for faculty and staff and graduate and professional students that take one of the sustainable forms of transportation to campus. And so it's just a 50-cent incentive that gets put into their account, and they can use it for parking. So it'll help offset some of their parking costs.
Wow, that's so interesting. Are you talking about it through the actual app through Commute Hub?
Yeah. So the Commute Hub, that's kind of where a lot of that is being centered, is around some of the daily parking decisions. So getting people out of the mindset that they've paid for parking for a whole month and that they can just, come and go as they want.
Yeah.
we think, a lot of people have a little more flexibility with their schedule to drive some days or telecommute or carpool. And so it just gets people thinking about like that payment each time and whether or not that's something they have to do.
Yeah, definitely that, because I noticed that the Loom app had like some rewards and incentives, but I didn't know like specific ones. So that's really interesting.
Yeah, so we've kind of taken it slow in rolling out the daily parking because it's been really a pilot, and we were undertaking it anyway before the pandemic hit. So we were going to roll it out this last fall, and so we went forward with it, and it's been really popular. People have really positive things to say about it because you're not having a monthly parking fee that's deducted from your account. You're just paying as you use it. And so then kind of the next kind of phase 2 that we're doing is we're adding another garage to the program this fall and then adding the incentives as well for people who take the sustainable commutes.
And like, so you said it's been really popular. Are you guys going to go forward and collect data on who's using the app and kind of use that to see if we're meeting our goals?
Yeah, so that's one of the good things about it too, is that the more people are in the daily parking program, we get a better idea of how the parking is being utilized. So instead of like selling one permit, like one daily parking permit, if we were to do that per space, we can sell that same space like 2 or 3 times. And so you're utilizing that resource much more efficiently. And so then it'll free up parking spaces in other parts of campus for us to do other things like classroom buildings and the good stuff. Why a university is actually there instead of providing parking.
Yes, for sure. And that's so right now, is it just professional graduate students and staff who are mainly using it? Have you seen other groups using it?
Yeah, so it's just open to faculty and staff, and then graduate and professional students and postdocs.
Okay.
So right now it's not undergrad because last year was kind of the exception where we had a significant number of people off campus. But we have a good portion of our undergraduate population on campus. So their parking needs are a little bit different than the ones who are kind of commuting to and from campus each day.
For sure. Have you been able, I know it seems like the pandemic wasn't like that bad of an impact on the program, but I don't know, was there anything else about the pandemic that really impacted the beginnings of the program? Because it seems to have launched right before everything hit.
So daily parking has been, a big win. I think other things related with MoveVU, so like carpooling and van pooling have been really difficult just because that kind of expands the bubble and like of contracting COVID-19. And so we haven't been promoting that a whole lot just because we didn't really have good messaging behind it. And we have certain parameters and guidance around to keep yourself safer, but we never really felt really comfortable kind of pushing it. And I would say similarly with the WeGo passes is that we had an announcement on it, and I mean it was seriously right at the very beginning of the pandemic. So people didn't really know, are we picking it up more off of surfaces, or is it more airborne, and how long does it stay in the air, and those sorts of things. And so I think we're really excited about, as people start thinking about going back, like talking about some of these other modes of transportation that have been sort of overlooked because we've been really focusing on telecommuting and daily parking for the most part.
For sure. And then, so I also was wondering, was there any elements to MoveVU at large that are contributing to, I know we have Vandy bands and things like that, or even just the fleets that the school use. Is there anything in the works in terms of the electrification of like transportation or shuttles or fleets?
Yes, so that is a big topic. We've sort of had on our radar to electrify our shuttle fleet, and we have grant money through the Tennessee Department of Transportation to help us with that, and there's also grant money that's supporting what we're doing with MoveVU as well. But it's kind of in a weird area where I think the vehicle market is starting to shift towards electrification much more than it previously has. And so one of the things we're looking for is a way to lease electric vehicles, and there's not many companies that do that right now. Because the ones that are being produced are being bought by transit operators or universities or fleet operators. So that's kind of like on our radar. And in fact, we've been kind of looking at our fleet in other areas. So beyond just the Vandy vans or Vandy ride shuttles, but things like the trucks and the small vehicles that like our plant operations uses, or like facilities. And so we actually have a big RFP that's out right now where we're trying to identify like the best provider for that going forward, that will kind of not immediately transition us to like all electric fleet, but that will like get our foot in the door, so that we start kind of thinking through the different vehicle types that we have, because the university it's like a little city in and of itself. So you've got like a police vehicle versus a vehicle that someone is using to do like maintenance out in front of a building. And so we're really trying to figure out kind of the best path forward. And so we're looking at some proposals to kind of begin that transition. And so we're hoping that private partner will help outline like our path forward on electrification of all of our fleet going forward.
It's definitely exciting. It's super interesting. And just going back for a second, we were talking about incentives earlier, and I forgot to mention, I noticed there was the guaranteed ride home program. And I was wondering if you could like tell me a little bit more about that and why it's being considered and things like that.
Yeah. So we kind of call that like our insurance. So if you take the bus or carpool with someone, and you have an emergency that comes up, you aren't reliant then upon the bus system and its schedule, or the friend or coworker that you carpooled with to kind of get you home at the same time. So it kind of provides this extra bit of insurance. So it takes away kind of the reasons not to maybe take the bus or the carpool. And so you kind of always have that as a backup way to get home. So if you have kids, one of them gets sick, you're able to leave work and go home and pick them up, and use Lyft to do that ride instead of having to disturb your carpool.
Yeah, for sure.
Or wait on the bus and not be able to get back as quickly as you would like. And that's something we haven't formally pushed that out. We have information on our website. We've kind of been waiting on this return to campus communications to go out, and that's something that we're going to be pushing out here probably in the next few weeks.
Very exciting. Is there anything else we can expect from the Commute Hub?
So with the guaranteed ride home, you'll be able to do that through the app. So you'll be able to request the guaranteed ride home through the app, and it'll give you a Lyft code that you'll be able to put into your Lyft account and then use. The commute incentives for sustainable commutes will be out this fall. The West Garage is another facility that we're adding to the daily parking program. We've got, we're also working, this has been something that has been underway for, probably almost 2 years, is with the redesign of the Vandy ride routes. We've have a number of shuttle stops that have been identified where we're putting in shuttle shelters.
Okay.
So that kind of keeps getting delayed just because it's been a capital project, and it's something that, with the unknown impacts with COVID-19, that we sort of held up on, but it's something that we're starting to restart again. And so that is being kind of lumped in with some shuttle parking, some scooter parking improvements. So we'll have kind of the shuttle shelters and the scooter and bike parking improvements that we'll continue to be making on campus. And I'm sure there's something that I'm like forgetting.
You can always feel free to email me. So for sure.
Because we're all over the map with a number of things. I think a lot of people think it's just parking related. And, that is a big, focus of what we do, but it's also trying to enhance all of the other transportation modes.
Yes, for sure. I guess another question I have, unrelated, just wondering, is do you get feedback from professional staff or workers or students when it comes to how are you receiving this data to know how people are moving and what they would enjoy and things like that?
Yeah. So, the FutureVU and MoveVU plans were done with a lot of stakeholder and community member input. So there were like numerous open houses and public forums for people to come express, concerns or issues that they see on campus, and it helped shape both of those plans. And so we're continuing. So we know kind of like the big kind of touch points often are around parking and kind of communicating that out. And so we're really concentrating on making our communications a lot clearer for when we talk about the parking options, and trying to also kind of talk through the additional transportation options when we're engaging on parking. So, that's one thing I think that we're continuing to improve on. We're also wanting to do what we call a commute concierge service. And it would kind of be, right now we don't have the staffing capacity to do it, but we're hoping to have resources in the future where we will have a couple of people that will meet with anybody within the Vanderbilt community and kind of plan through their commute trip. So, look at their home location and then where they're arriving on campus, and just think through what bus routes may be nearby, and how often do they run, and how do you, get on the bus, and where are there people who have signed up that are interested in carpool that live nearby, and just get people kind of tailor some options for their commute. And I kind of clump it into the same categories if you were to meet your financial advisor on your 401k. Something that you don't really have to know all the details, but you need some guidance to kind of help you, figure out the best path forward. And so that's something that we kind of have it's in the queue. We kind of know what we need to do. It's just we haven't got the resources quite yet to do that. But as soon as we do, it's, I think, something that will be really exciting.
Yeah, that's so interesting. It kind of reminds me of going to the career center for guidance on how to do a resume or something like that. That's that would be a great resource for sure.
Yeah, and I kind of think people often, and the way that we're talking even about daily parking is, I think there's a lot of assumptions around that if you take the bus, that you're going to have to take the bus every day. And that's not the case. That it's you have different things that happen throughout the day. And so some days are going to be more suitable, for you to take the bus potentially, or to carpool, or to telecommute. And then other days, you're just going to have to get in your car and drive.
Yeah.
And so
especially
just really
in like a
getting
school environment.
Yeah, just really getting people out of the mindset that they just kind of, numbingly go get in their car, drive to campus, and are frustrated that, there's a lot of different paths kind of out of that cycle. And so it can be, the day of the week that you go, it could be the time of day that you're commuting that may work better. And so there's just a lot of ways for people to think about it that I think, most, if they're not, transportation savvy, they just want to live their life and get to work.
Exactly. I remember the first time riding on like Vanderbilt's public, I think Carta or whatever it's called, was a nightmare for me. Was lost for like 3 hours. It's like, where's the bus at? So then, yeah, I think these type of things really help, because finding the apps that work best for locating the bus was a godsend. So
Yeah, one of the things, we've got a online forum that we're doing. Looking at my calendar, it's 1 week from today, and we're sending out the message about it, hopefully here in the next few days. But we've partnered with WeGo Public Transit to host the forum, and they're wanting input on the fall service changes, but we thought it was also a good opportunity for people over kind of the lunchtime, if they want to hop in and like ask questions about like taking the bus. And just because I think there's a lot of, and we've been working with researchers to kind of think through like what are the barriers on some of these things, and they find kind of like the simple things, the simple fears that people kind of conjure up in their minds that are kind of the barriers to getting people to use different forms of transportation. So it's like, if you're getting on the bus, it's like, where is the bus taking me? Like, is the bus driver going to yell at me for when I swipe my card and it beeps, or I don't know if I tap or swipe, and it's making noises? And if you're biking, like, what do you do when you get to work and you're sweating? And so I think just like simple things like that if people can get in a forum or in like a one-on-one conversation to like ask those questions and not feel like intimidated, I think is really also important, to just kind of get someone to take that kind of first time, and it kind of plants a seed like, oh, that wasn't, that was a lot better than I thought it was going to be. And, I may do that again, here in a couple weeks. And
for sure. Yeah, that would probably be revolutionary, especially like, because the way you put it, where it's like, it's not like all of us need to take a bus every single day. If all of us chose to take a bus at least once a weekday that we could commit to, it would make such an impact. So
yeah, we figured out with the MoveVU plan that if, I think it was just 1 to 2 days a week, if you were to take a different form of transportation, or even telecommute, like, we would meet our goal like easily. And so that's not a big ask. And some people will ride the bus more because it's really convenient for them, or they'll bike because they like the exercise and the fresh air that they get. So and some people, it's not going to fit them at all. They may struggle to do it like once a month. But yeah, really just getting people to think about, like, if there's one day a week that I do something differently, that really makes a big impact, kind of university wide.
for sure.
So yeah, I mean, I've found, like, with myself, that kind of just doing it the first time is usually the hardest part, because I'm like a probably more anxious individual. And so like, I think through of like, oh, I'm gonna tap the card wrong and it's gonna beep, and like the bus is gonna want to be going, and like none of that happens. Like, everybody's always so nice, and and like biking can be like, I've did that for some time when I worked with Metro, and like I'll say like I kind of planned things like that because it was like I knew if I encountered a lot of traffic while I was biking, it
Mhm.
was not as an enjoyable of experience. So I would often like leave early to kind of miss a lot of people who are driving.
Mhm.
And um, so just like talking through people those, through those different things, it
Definitely.
can sometimes happen. And some people are just gonna keep doing what they have always done.
Exactly.
So even
Yeah.
when you suggest things like that, or they're gonna
Like,
have a
no.
lot of reasons as to why they can't do it.
Exactly. Yeah, that reminds me. I feel like those type of situations do provoke a lot of social anxiety. And I was studying abroad in Australia last semester, and they're big on buses in the city I was. And I remember having like my social or study abroad advisor literally had to take me on a bus and show me how to tap the card and where to sit and where, the pregnant women sit and the elderly sit and where is okay. And just after that first experience, it's like, okay, I can do this. Like, I know what's going on.
Well, and I mean that's so what you're describing there is exactly why the commute concierge is something too that we want to get going because
Hmm.
in talking with like graduate students, we have realized a lot of just depending on what school they're in, it will depend on kind of the amount of handholding that is done
Hmm.
with both like finding a place to live and then being able to get around the city. And so some schools are just a lot more thorough during kind of the onboarding process, and then others are like, "Here you go, figure your
Yeah.
way out." And so we're wanting to kind of be at the table when
Yeah.
people are starting on campus like that. And so graduates, students coming in for the first time, that's like a population that we can engage with like immediately.
For sure.
Then like anybody else that starts working at Vanderbilt for the first time, that's also an opportunity for us to talk about like how they get to campus since it's kind of establishing a new routine and a new schedule for them.